Managed to sneak into the dressage ring here. They're currently undergoing some ring familiarization for some of the 4-star competitors, I believe. And we'll point out the start box for you. So over there you see the brown structure. So that's the start box, and the horses will come out of there, and they'll come immediately to fence number 1, which is this stone wall right here. So the fence is a little bit, busy, but it's pretty inviting and should get the horses ready to go. After the horses come out of the start box, they'll jump number 1, and they come down a galloping lane and around the corner, and they're faced with this, which is obviously an imposing jump for 4-star horses. I suspect most of them will manage it, but you never know. Obviously, I'm kidding. This is actually the jumps for the Shetland Pony cross-country course that'll be going on Sunday. So there's going to be a whole whackload of Shetland ponies here, and they will do dressage, cross-country, and stadium, and I believe they'll do it all on Sunday. So we'll make sure to bring you some of that action before the show jump starts in the afternoon for the 4-star. The actual jump 2 for the 4-star is over here on your right. So the 4-star has the yellow flags, and this is called la scierie, which translates, I think, essentially to the sawmill. And you can see that there's some chipped wood, and the 2-star fence on the left actually has a pretend saw in there. At least I'm going to assume it's pretend. So this isn't a terribly complicated fence. It's straightforward. The horses and riders are just going to be getting into a rhythm. I suspect it'll be a little bit busy in this area on Saturday. There's going to be horses warming up in the warm-up ring there. So you can't assume these fences are gimmies, and certainly these riders know well enough that you have to make sure your horse is paying attention to where he's going. So this is fence 2. 4, so they're flagged individually, and you'll see the fence on the far right, the brush jump there, is fence 3 for the 4-star, and then they have an option for fence 4. Their first option, and this is going to be the quicker option, is to jump out over this corner. Obviously the corner is, relatively wide, which you can't really see from this angle, and quite narrow. So it's sort of the first accuracy question that we've seen on course. The other option, if you think your horse maybe, is not jumping super well thus far in the course, or if your horse some horses can be a little bit silly when it comes to skinnies earlier on in course until they've gotten their rhythm and they're really looking for the fences. So your slower option is to come all the way on the outside of this 4 and jump that smaller hedge there, which is also number 3 for the 2-star. So I suspect for the most part, horses at this level, you'll see them picking the quick route and coming out over the corner. But certainly if someone has a glance off of the corner here, or is a little concerned that their horse might not appreciate the accuracy question so early on in the course, they might opt for the slower option, the 4. But it's fairly time consuming because you essentially have to cover the same ground twice. In the 2-star, there is no option, so they'll jump that middle brush jump, the one that's on the left there, and they'll come around and they'll jump a brush jump that is just behind those trees. You probably can't see it, but there's another brush jump behind those trees, and it's not a wide brush jump, it's just a single. So that's fences 3 and 4. So this here is fence 5, and it comes obviously after a little bit of a question at fence 4, so it's once again straightforward. We're still in the first couple of fences of the course, so the horse and rider are going to be looking to set a nice steady pace and make sure that everything's coming easily and that the horse is jumping off the ground and listening to his rider. This is the 6th fence on course. It's called La Piste Jaune, which translates to the yellow trail. It's a bit of a chicaner with a ditch underneath. It's not a huge ditch, certainly not compared with some of the stuff that we saw at Burley, but it is rather wide. So overall, I think it should jump nicely. I don't think there are horses at this level that would find that sort of ditch would back them off much. So it should jump nicely, but you never know. You might have a horse or two that gets a little bit put off by it. You'll see also to the right, so there's a second log, and that is for the 2-star horses. And the ditch is about the same size, and the log is just a little bit lower, but not even much. So it's a very similar question. We're here at fence 7, which is called Le Kiosque, and it's probably the first real question on the course. So there's a couple of options here. So there's an A, a B, and a C. So your first option would be to come down the galloping lane, up with a little hill, over the brush, and then a little to the left will be the drop down, and that's the B. And then you'll have to do, if you take that option, you'll have to do a C. And so one option would be to do this C fence here. It's a smaller brush jump, but it's going to be a bit of a tricky angle if you're dropping down off the B. The slower route would be to go around and come over this brush on the left, which is a little bit bigger, but it's going back towards where the horses were coming from. So it adds a lot of extra time because the horses will then have to gallop around and get back straight to go down the galloping lane towards the next fence. Another option would be to take the gazebo instead of the mound. And here you'd have to jump onto the gazebo, it's in Bankit, and then come off of the little brush, which is B. And then once again, you would have to jump over C. So you could either come over C, which is on the left here, and jump once again back towards where you came, or come all the way around and jump the smaller C, which will have you on the right path. And that will probably depend on horses and riders and which route they want to take. Because there's a lot of options here. So obviously, if your horse might be a little bit shy at the skinny on top of the hill, you might decide to take the extra time and go the gazebo route. But if your horse is, more straightforward and isn't likely to deke out, then you can take the quicker route.